Heart on Ice, a hockey romance by Nora Ambrose. Narrated by Nora Ambrose. This full-cast audiobook was produced using AI voice modification paired with the performance from a live human actor. Chapter 2. A Promise and a Prayer. 4 years later, Stacy Carter pulled her car into the familiar parking lot of Eastside Ice Arena in St. Paul, letting the engine idle for a moment as she stared at the weathered building. It had been 4 years since Universal Silver, 4 years of grinding, pushing, and sometimes doubting. And now she was back where it all began, breathing in the crisp Minnesota air that felt like home in her lungs. The parking lot was half empty on this Tuesday afternoon, a rare moment of quiet for a place that had witnessed countless early mornings and late nights of her childhood. She grabbed her gear bag from the passenger seat out of habit. She hadn't planned on skating today, but something about coming home always pulled her toward the ice. Inside, the familiar scent hit her, that unmistakable blend of cold air, sweat, and the faint metallic tang that only ice rinks seem to have. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the memories wash over her. The sound of blades cutting across fresh ice, her father's voice echoing from the boards, the weight of her first real hockey stick in her hands.
Carter? Stacy Carter, is that you?
She turned to see Bill Henley, the rink manager who'd been working here since she was in pigtails, grinning at her from behind the skate rental counter.
In the flesh. How you been, Bill?
Oh, can't complain. My wife says that I should retire, but what would I do with myself? You here to skate? Public session doesn't start for another hour, but I could look the other way if you want to get out there early. We've got some kids fooling around.
I might take you up on that. Thanks.
Stacy made her way to the familiar benches and laced up her skates with practiced precision. Some things become so ingrained in muscle memory that they could be done blindfolded, like the way her fingers knew exactly how tight to pull each lace, or how her body automatically adjusted to the new center of gravity when she stood on her blades. The sound of voices, young, competitive, with that edge that only adolescent boys seem to have, drew her attention to the far end of the rink. 5 boys, probably around 12 or 13, were taking turns shooting at a goal, and off to the side, watching them with poorly disguised interest, was a girl about the same age. Her stance was hesitant but determined as she practiced her stick handling away from the group. Stacy stepped onto the ice, the familiar embrace of the cold surface beneath her blades centering her instantly. She did a few lazy circuits, loosening her muscles and getting a feel for the ice. It wasn't the pristine universal-level surface she'd grown accustomed to, but there was something comforting about its imperfections, the little nicks and bumps that told stories of the skaters who'd come before. As she glided past the group of boys, Stacy noticed their shooting technique. All power, no finesse. Typical. And the girl was still off to the side, now attempting shots of her own and missing the net entirely each time.
That's why girls can't play hockey.
One of the boys called out, noticing her latest attempt.
They got no aim.
His friends laughed, that cruel laughter of children who haven't yet learned how much words can cut. The girl's cheeks flushed crimson, but she squared her shoulders and tried again. Another miss. This one worse than before, as her embarrassment made her grip too tight. Stacy felt something twist in her chest, a memory of being that girl, of struggling to prove herself in a sport that constantly questioned her right to be there. Before she could overthink it, she glided over to her.
Mind if I give you a tip?
Stacy asked quietly, coming to a gentle stop. The girl looked up, startled, her wide brown eyes taking Stacy in with a mixture of suspicion and hope.
I guess,
the girl murmured.
You're gripping the stick too tight. And you're all shoulders, no wrists.
She positioned herself beside the girl.
May I?
The girl handed over her stick, and Stacy demonstrated a proper shot, exaggerating the wrist snap at the end.
See how my weight transfers forward and my wrists do the final work, not my arms?
The girl nodded, her eyes fixed on Stacy's hands.
Want to try?
She took the stick back and set up, mimicking Stacy's stance. Her first attempt was still off, but much closer.
Better. But you're rushing it. Hockey isn't just about power, it's about patience, about finding the right moment. Set up again. Good. Now take a breath. Feel the ice under your skates, the stick in your hands. When you're ready, not before, take the shot.
The boys had noticed their impromptu lesson and were watching now, making no effort to hide their smirks. But the girl didn't seem to notice them anymore. She was focused, her brow furrowed in concentration. She took a deep breath, adjusted her grip slightly, and then, with significantly improved form, sent the puck sailing into the net. Her face lit up with pure joy, and Stacy couldn't help but smile in response.
Do it again,
she said, placing another puck in front of the girl. She did, and again the puck found its target. The boys had stopped laughing.
Hey, who are you supposed to be? Some kind of coach or something?
Stacy glanced over at them, raising an eyebrow.
Who, me? Just someone who knows a thing or two about hockey.
Oh, yeah? Do you actually play, or do you just teach little girls how to shoot?
She bit back a smile as she reached into her bag and pulled out her Team USA jacket, slipping it on with perhaps a touch more flourish than was strictly necessary.
I play a little.
The Lakeview Country Club's grand ballroom was transformed into an elegant celebration space, with twinkling lights strung across the ceiling like stars and champagne glasses catching their glow. Stacy paused at the entrance, smoothing down her navy cocktail dress and taking a steadying breath. After a morning spent at the ice rink, she'd barely had time to shower, blow dry her hair, and apply the minimal makeup that was her concession to formal events. Hockey was her comfort zone. Social gatherings like this, where people mingled without the buffer of sports talk or the safety of uniforms, were an entirely different challenge.
Hey, there she is.
A familiar voice called from across the room. Stacy looked up to see her brother Junior waving enthusiastically, his other arm wrapped around his fiancée, Erin. Junior, legally Jack Carter Jr., named after their father, looked every inch the successful financial analyst in his tailored suit. Despite having the same chestnut hair and blue eyes as Stacy, he carried himself with a polished ease that came from navigating boardrooms rather than locker rooms. At 28, he was 2 years her senior and had always been her fiercest defender and biggest supporter, even when they'd followed vastly different paths. Stacy made her way through the crowd, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing server before reaching the happy couple.
You're late,
Junior said, pulling her into a one-armed hug.
I was starting to think Team USA called an emergency practice.
And miss my big brother's engagement party? Never.
Stacy replied with a grin, turning to embrace Erin.
The venue looks amazing. You guys did a fantastic job.
Erin beamed. With her honey blonde hair styled in elegant waves and wearing a blush-colored dress that complemented her fair skin, she looked radiant.
Thanks, Stacy. I'm just glad that you could make it with your training schedule. Junior's been talking about nothing but the universal team for weeks.
Oh, is that so?
Only because I know that you're bringing home gold this time. Silver was just a warm-up, right?
Stacy forced a smile, trying not to let the familiar pressure resurface. Even in well-meaning comments from family, she couldn't escape the expectation of redemption, the weight of that silver medal that sometimes felt heavier than gold would have.
Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the happy couple.
Stacy turned to see Frank Nowicki, one of her father's old teammates from his semi-pro days. Frank was a mountain of a man with a bushy gray mustache and the ruddy complexion of someone who spent too much time in cold rinks and warm bars. He clasped Junior's hand in a vigorous shake.
Ah, there he is, the hockey prodigy of the family,
Frank declared, slapping Junior on the back with enough force to make him wince.
Your old man tells me that universal training is going well. Must be exciting, following in Big Jack's footsteps when the poor guy never quite secured that gold medal himself.
An awkward silence fell over their small circle. Erin's eyes widened slightly and Junior cleared his throat.
Actually, Frank, I am in finance, and Stacy's the hockey player in the family.
Frank blinked, his gaze shifting to Stacy as if seeing her for the first time. His bushy eyebrows drew together in confusion.
You? But Big Jack always talked about his kid being a hockey phenom. Captain material for Team USA.
That would be me.
Stacy said, trying to keep her tone light despite the familiar sting.
I am captain of the women's team. We took silver in the last Universal Winter Games.
Frank's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water.
Women's hockey? Well, I'll be damned. No offense, honey, but when Big Jack talked about his kid tearing up the ice, I just assumed. You know, hockey is such a physical sport.
Women's hockey is plenty physical.
Stacy replied, her grip tightening on her champagne glass.
We just play without checking. Makes for more focus on skill and strategy.
Sure. Good for you, sweetheart. It must be nice to have those opportunities these days. Different from when we were coming up.
Junior stepped in smoothly, placing a hand on Frank's shoulder and steering him toward the bar.
Frank, have you tried the signature cocktail Aaron designed for the party? It's called the Proposal. It's got this amazing...
As Junior led the older man away, throwing an apologetic glance over his shoulder, Stacy felt Aaron's hand on her arm.
I'm sorry about that. For what it's worth, Junior never stops bragging about his sister, the Universal Superstar.
Stacy managed a small smile.
It's fine. It happens way more than you'd think.
But as she took a sip of her champagne, watching Frank gesture expansively at the bar as Junior nodded patiently, the familiar frustration settled in her chest like an old bruise, tender when pressed, never quite healing completely. How many years of proving herself, how many medals, how many captaincies would it take before men like Frank, men like her father, if she was honest with herself, saw her as an athlete first, a woman second? When would women's hockey simply become hockey in their eyes? Stacy scanned the room for her father, wondering if he'd heard the exchange. She spotted him across the ballroom, deep in conversation with the country club's owner, animated as he always was when networking. He hadn't noticed the interaction, and somehow that felt worse than if he'd witnessed it and stepped in. She drained her champagne glass and set it on a nearby table. The night was young, and she'd need something stronger than bubbles to make it through the inevitable conversations about when she was going to settle down like Junior, now that she was in her mid-20s. As if her universal dreams were just a phase to outgrow, rather than the driving force of her existence. Stacy spotted the bar and headed in that direction, pasting on the media-ready smile she'd perfected for press conferences. Tonight wasn't about her or the persistent misconceptions she battled. It was about Junior and Aaron and their happiness. She could check her frustrations at the door for one night. After all, she'd been checking things, expectations, doubts, stereotypes, her entire career.
There's my girl.
She didn't need to turn to recognize her father's voice, gruff yet warm, with that unmistakable cadence that had narrated countless early morning drives to hockey practice. Big Jack Carter Sr. joined her at the railing, his imposing frame now slightly stooped, his once powerful shoulders narrower than she remembered from just months ago.
Hey, Dad. Nice party.
Aaron's folks planned the whole shindig.
He chuckled, the sound dissolving into a brief, harsh cough that he quickly suppressed with a handkerchief. Stacy pretended not to notice, though her chest tightened. The treatments were supposed to be working, but every time she saw him, he seemed a little thinner, a little grayer. The cancer that had started in his pancreas was a formidable opponent, tougher than any team he'd ever faced on the ice.
Your mom would have loved to be here.
Stacy's mother had passed 2 years ago from lung cancer. Now Big Jack had the dreaded disease that had already claimed the life of one family member. The 1-2 body check to the family was nearly more than Stacy could bear.
Junior looks happy.
Oh, yeah, he does. Aaron's a good girl.
Big Jack nodded, his gaze drifting back toward the party where Junior was spinning his fiancée on the dance floor.
She's a smart match for him. Stable.
There was an unspoken comparison in his words that Stacy chose not to address. Her father had never quite understood her decision to pursue hockey with such single-minded focus, to the exclusion of what he considered a normal life: marriage, children, stability. The irony wasn't lost on her. It had been Big Jack who'd first put her on skates at age 3, who'd spent countless hours in freezing rinks coaching her, who'd instilled in her the passion for the game that now consumed her.
Saw you talking to Frankie earlier. Good man, Frank. Tough as nails on the ice back in the day.
He thought Junior was the hockey player in the family.
Stacy replied, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Big Jack's laugh rumbled deep in his chest.
Well, you can't blame him. Back when we played, women's hockey wasn't, you know.
Wasn't what, Dad? Real hockey?
The words escaped before she could temper them. Her father turned to her, his blue eyes so like her own, serious beneath his bushy gray eyebrows.
Now that's not what I meant, Stacy. It's just different.
She took a long sip of her drink rather than respond. This was an old argument, worn smooth like river stones from years of the same words rushing over them.
Did I ever tell you about the '84 Universal Winter Games?
He asked suddenly, changing course as he often did when conversations grew thorny. Stacy bit back a smile.
Only a few hundred times.
It was the semifinal against Sweden. Third period, game tied 2-2. Coach puts me in. Hadn't played a shift all game. Cold as ice, but ready.
Despite herself, Stacy settled into the familiar cadence of the story. Her father had been a solid player, never quite pro-level caliber, but good enough to make the national team once.
10 seconds left. Puck comes loose in the neutral zone. I see my chance. Breakaway up the left side. Swedish defenseman. Big guy. Built like a brick wall. Tries to cut me off. I feint right. Go left. And then...
Top shelf, glove side.
Stacy finished for him, a genuine smile spreading across her face despite her earlier irritation.
That's right. Prettiest goal I ever scored. Took us to the gold medal game against Canada. And we all know how that ended.
Stacy did know. The story of the narrow loss to Canada had been a bedtime story throughout her childhood. That silver medal still hung in his study, tarnished now, but treated with the reverence of a holy relic.
Those Canadians. Always tough. But that's what makes beating them so sweet, right?
He turned to look at her, placing a hand on her shoulder. His touch was lighter than it once had been, the strength that had defined him slowly ebbing away.
4 years is a long time to wait for a rematch.
You're ready. I've watched you train. The team is stronger than last time.
A sudden coughing fit overtook him, this one longer and harsher than before. Stacy rubbed his back gently, trying to ignore the fear that clawed at her throat. When he finally straightened, wiping his mouth with the handkerchief, his face was flushed and his breathing labored.
Dad, maybe we should get you some water.
I'm fine. Just need a minute.
He pocketed the handkerchief before she could see if there was blood on it this time. For a moment, they stood in silence. The sounds of the party, laughter, music, the clink of glasses, seemed very far away.
The doctors say I'm responding well to the treatment.
Big Jack said finally, as if reading her thoughts. The forced optimism in his voice broke something in Stacy. They both knew his prognosis was guarded at best. Stage 3 pancreatic cancer didn't leave much room for certainty.
I just want to see it once. My little girl standing on that podium with gold around her neck. The flag rising, the anthem playing. That would really be something.
Stacy felt tears burning behind her eyes, but years of post-game interviews had taught her how to blink them back. She straightened her shoulders and took her father's hand. Once so much larger than hers, now thin and papery, the veins prominent beneath his skin.
I'm going to win gold. I promise, Dad. Team USA is going to bring home gold this time.